This is how we made a checklist app, just with a couple of elements that we've seen in previous articles. In this video, we are going to do this to-do list exercise. As you can see in the screenshot, it's just a very basic checklist where you can add some items and then you can check them just clicking on them. So let's read the description of the exercise and let's start. Create a task list app. Allow the user to add new tasks via text field and a button. Display these items in a list. Each item will have a checkbox indicating whether the task is completed or not. When the user taps a task, its checkbox will toggle between checked and unchecked. Okay, so yeah, let's start creating our project. Once you have the project created, we can go step by step. Okay, so first of all, we are going to define the variable that it will store all our tasks or to do things. So this will be just a standard state bar. We are going to call it items, but instead of using here a string, because we need to not only show the name of the task, but we also need to show the state, if it's completed or not completed. So we are going to create an object here that will contain the state and the name. So we can put this on a struct that will be named to-do task, and it will contain the name, which is a string, and the state, it's completed, that will be a boolean. Okay, so the array of items that we are going to store in the view will be an array of to-do task, and that's what we are going to show. All right, so once we have these items declared that it's going to start empty, we are going to show these items in a list. As we do usually, we are going to go through the indexes of this array. So it will go from 0 to items count, excluding the last one. Then we'll define this, as we've seen in other articles, that we see in upcoming articles why we need to do this and why we can avoid it. But for now, we just use id self. We define the variable for the index. So here we can show a text, but this time it will show the name of the object. We are not using strings on the array. So we need to go to items array, give me the one of the index that it's executing. I mean, this will be executed once per each item on the array, providing the index of the item. So we can access to the item with just this index variable. So inside of that item, we can access to the name and to the state. So we can just show the name, and just for texting purpose, we are going to add one value manually here. So we can see that the list is loaded correctly. As you can see here, we are showing only the name, right? So now we have this in the screen. We are going to create the checkbox, all right? So we are going to put in a horizontal stack the image for the checkbox and the text. The image will be a system image. So let's check in the article what images are we using. So depending on the state of the item, we are going to use one image or the other. There is a simpler way to do this, but we are going to use an if else just to make it more clear, okay? Because this is code that it's repeated, only the name changes, but in this way I think we can visualize this better. So back on our project, we'll use this is checkmark square. This is in the case that the task is marked as complete. Okay, so we are going to check again items, index, and then if it's complete. If this is true, we are going to show a checkmark square. Otherwise, well, we can test it. Let's resize this because it's going to be huge, and then frame width and 8. It will be 24. And then if we put this to true, when it refreshes, it should load. But when this is false, we want to also show an empty square. Okay, so we can use the else option, use the same element, but this time without the check mark. All right, so when it's not checked, it will be empty, but if this is true, it will be checked. So yeah, the next step will be to check and uncheck this item when the user taps in the item. Okay, so before that, we are going to add the items with a text field. Okay, so we are going to add here an horizontal stack because we want the text field and the button to be distributed horizontally. So we are going to create the text field here with a placeholder that can be add a task, and then for the text we need a variable in order to store that input from the user here. So we are going to declare here input text that will be a string that will be start as empty. So here this is a bindable variable, so we will use the dollar symbol and the variable we just declared. So again, we use this binding variable, meaning that we need to add this dollar symbol because the text field is going to do changes in our input text variable, right? Okay, finally, let's add some style to our text field, and then we can add the button that will say just add. Okay, so we can see our UI, our input UI is in place. Let's add some padding because yeah, it looks better now. So when I press the button add, I want to add a new item to my items array, right? But this is not a string. I mean, we have a string here as an input, but the item requires that we add a to-do task. So as we did in the example, we can just go to items and append a new element, okay? And this new element should be a to-do task. So we can just create a new to-do task and the name will be the input text. And the completed, we can choose that it starts false. I think that's should be the default behavior, right? You add something that is not done, so it's not completed. So after adding this, we are going to clean the input text, right? If you add a new, well, if you add a new item, you want to just reset your input, okay? So yeah, that's it. This just crashed, but let's run our app in the simulator. So we can check that when we add an item, it's added to the list and it's shown there, okay? Okay, here we have or app running in the simulator. So if I add a new task like clean the kitchen, if I press the add button, it will be added here. Okay, then make dinner will be added. So the last thing we are missing is just that when we press an item in our checklist, it should change the state. Okay, so this is what is representing our item, right? So we can cut this and then add it to a button. So in the label section, we can add this, so our item will be represented as a button, and then we can have here an event, so we know when the user tapped in one item. So what we are going to do is just to access to our item, which it will be accessed by the index. We can change if it's completed or not, and here we have two options. Okay, the first one is to use just a function, which is toggle. This is the easiest one. Yeah, we need to change this to a variable because we are going to do changes here. Okay, and then the other one that you may see in some projects is to use the opposite value, right? I mean, if this is false, I want it to true. If it's true, I want it to false. But yeah, you can use this function that it will do the same, just toggle the value. So I think the preview is back, so it's not. Let's run it in our simulator. So if I add an item here, it will make the dinners. When I tap, it will change the state. And every single item here will be independent. Okay. Yeah, so this is it. This is how we made an checklist app, just with a couple of elements that we've seen in previous articles. So I hope it helped you, and goodbye.